proof or evidence of it.
No, he's not saying that we believe that. That is up to us whether we want to believe or not. What he's certainly saying is he's not taking ownership for those kills. That yes, the Indian Air Force has done that. He's not doing that.
Now, in videos that you have frequently put out, forgive me. Now, in videos that you have frequently put out as editor of Force magazine, you've repeatedly stressed that the world has been impressed by Pakistan's performance during Operation Sindoor. Now, today, will the Air Force chief's claims change or alter that impression in India's favor?
So you see, the world has seen two things of this engagement, air engagement. The first thing they noticed was that air to air engagement, which is the key mission of any air force to acquire air supremacy, that was done only by the Pakistan Air. So they will accept that as true.
In other words, India's silence will be taken as acceptance that it's true.
Well, that is the way the world will see it. That here is a man who's saying that these are the numbers of the four Rafale which were shot down, but India hasn't reacted to that because it's a very important thing.
So the impression that you've stressed frequently in your videos that Pakistan's performance during Operation Sindoor was impressive and good, that impression will continue. It hasn't been altered by what the air chief has said on Friday.
No, as I said, the world has noticed the air-to-air engagements, which is the primary mission of any air force, and they've seen the Pakistan Air Force do it. This is what the world has understood. So this is what they still understand. That has not changed.
All right, folks, let's start with a hot button topic. Our claim, or Chief AP Singh's claim, about the destruction to the Pakistani Air Force. What does he say? Pakistan lost 16 jets on ground and in air during Operation Sindoor, says IAF chief. You've heard Praveen Soni up there talk about it. Army chief tells soldiers to be ready. So there's a lot of brinkmanship and saber rattling going on from India. But let me just tell you, folks, India is not in a position. I'm going to call this out. I may be called a traitor, maybe called anti-national, maybe called whatever. We are not ready for a war, decisive war, which can even gain an inch of a territory against Pakistan, especially the part we want, which is POK and that area. We don't have it. We don't have it in us at this point in time. Right now, do I believe it or not? The question is, hey, does the world believe it? No. And unless we come out with categoric proof, it's not, nobody's going to believe us either, right? And the important part is the dating, right? He says only one plane was shot in the air, and that's that slow-moving airwalk, right? And that through with an S-400, which is confirmed more or less S-400 can do it, but S-400 cannot record kills, right? Rest, he says, on the ground, including F-16, the Americans have not come up. But maybe Trump is unhappy with us because we've knocked his property down, which is the F-16. I don't know. That could be something that the Bucks can play on. But that he talks about intelligence. What intelligence? Do you think Doval has? Does our people know? Do we have any intelligence? Barton chasing our own opposition down. Raw doesn't seem to know what's going on, man. We can't seem to tell the difference between a horse and an ass, right? We don't. We really have no clue, right? So, I personally, on the other hand, you can believe what you want, but I hope this Indian Air Force and the Indian Army doesn't let us down when actually the chips are down. Actually, the chips are down. And the other thing about this S-400 came into play, in my opinion, on the 7th day. Reason I tell you is because on the 6th, when we launched, we had already called up and said we are going to attack. Don't do anything about it. We are not hitting a military target. So the S-400 could not have been operational on the day we are supposed to have lost all those aircraft. The 6th night, 7th month. Please, and that's one thing Praveen Soni didn't cover, but that's an important point to tell you. Okay. So here we have that. We might tell the world, but look at this. Canadian PM meets Trump, lauds him for bringing peace between India and Pakistan. So let me just say this. Story seems to be over for us. India targets Russia deal for 5 more S-400 systems. You know that the next one's coming end of next year. That also, like I told you, is not sure. The reason is they're running out of inventory. They can't put S-400s together. Their S-400s are being knocked out by the Ukrainians, and they're even out asking for those back from Turkey. Right? Self-reliance in defense linked to sovereignty, says Rajan. He's absolutely right. And then you have this HAL flies high on 62,000 crore order for fighter jets. But this is a brilliant ad. tells you about our self-reliance. Okay, this is a huge ad by GE Aerospace which says, you bring the courage, we bring the power. Alright guys, focus on we bring the power. That's the engine, guys. And focus on the other stuff. He says, you bring the courage. Oh, as far as China, no courage. Absolutely none at all, right? We just like the Sindhu, put our women in front, Sindhu, right? Powering tomorrow's India. Another one, Rolls Royce. So powering it's all about powering India. And what's Rajnath about with his doffing caps he loves to doff? Self-reliance of what? Really? Pak claims to have exported rare earth elements to the United States. Pakistan gets going. Pakistan likely to get AIM I-128-way missiles from the US. What the hell do they need that from, right? Pakistan courts the United States with pitch for new Arabian seaport. Wow. Well, everybody thinks that they're going to put China, Balochistan is going to put China and the United States face to face. Let's think about that. POK protesters, Pakistan government sign agreement. Here, the PM actually went to the protesters. And what do we do? What does our PM do? He runs from India when there is an internal conflict, especially like the Manipur or now in Ladakh. For India, the lesson is don't fret over the Pakistan puppet show. Munir's overtures to Washington and Riyadh are less about shifting alliance than about hedging. Rawalpindi signals to Beijing and Pak is not locked into a single patron. Nirupama Rai, let's just forget it. All these old guys, just dated. I mean, they just want to keep pretending and put their hand, sink their head in the sand. This is not important. Oh, come on, grow up, guys. Trump's flip-flops on Pakistan take the cake or the rare earth. Islamabad is besides itself with delight at US President's frequent words of praise. It should be, well, why? Who's telling us this? Pakistan should be careful. Pakistan is more than careful. We should think about ourselves, guys. Let's just grow up, right? Our papers are full of what Pakistan's doing wrong and how the United States is making an error. But is anybody listening except the dummy bucks? No. Unfortunately, but the bucks include some of our, or a large section of our retired ex-servicemen, it becomes dangerous. It becomes a slippery slope to hell for our armed forces. See what's coming up next.
Breaking news from the defense world, a move that has quietly shaken the regional balance. Pakistan and Malaysia have just signed a historic defense memorandum of understanding, a deal that could reshape military cooperation from South Asia to Southeast Asia. This is not just another routine agreement. This is a signal, a message to friends and rivals alike that new power alignments are forming. This MO didn't come out of nowhere. For months, quiet discussions were taking place between defense officials in Islamabad and Kuala Lumpur. The signing now confirms that both countries are stepping into a deeper military partnership, one that covers not only defense industry cooperation, but also cybersecurity, aviation, and advanced technologies. But the real question is why now? What prompted Pakistan and Malaysia to come together at this moment? And what could this mean for the
So, folks, I take this. I just go at it because having my parents and a lot of my people in my group and my batch all lost their parents defending this great nation. So we really don't take kindly to what I call the politicization and communalization of this great institution that's the Indian Armed Forces, right? Now, when did the slippery slope start? It started way back when General Bakshi, an armored corps officer commanding the Eastern Command, was superseded by General Rawat, who subsequently, God rest his soul in peace, later became the CDS. And that time the reasoning given was that armor had lost its it's being because of the way the wars were now being conducted, and it was all going to be infantry, and hence Rawat was picked up. The only thing that he had going for him, he was from the same village or close to the same village as Rawat, right? As Doval. That was really his calling card. But now, if that's your logic, what do you explain? How do you explain General Pandey? He's not from any of the fighting forces. Now, are we saying that just engineers are going to win us this war? I mean, using the same logic, it's not my logic. You tell me. That's when the army started going sideways, and now, after Agniveer, headed down. Right? But let's see what good old Trumper is doing, right? Can Trump tame Gaza's fires? And I also agree, probably not, as written by Paolo Caridi. His 20-point plan is a result of growing international pressure to end the genocide. But Netanyahu continues to bomb Gazans, and Hamas doesn't intend to surrender. We are back to square one. And the reason is, again, Netanyahu, selfishly corrupt man. His internal courts are going after him just to save himself. He continues to conduct genocide, right? And then what do we have? Stanley John Wright, Israel's tactical gains in a strategic labyrinth. He says, the grand diplomatic vision of reshaping West Asia with Israel at its center could be in ruins. Mr. Netanyahu wanted to reshape West Asia. The region is being remade, but not according to his design. As you heard upstairs, Pakistan is going to be fully in play in West Asia, as it seems to be in Southeast Asia after having done a deal with Malaysia. While we watch at Doval, right? Raw intelligence, right? Pro-Palestinian protests across cities condemn war. Is happening all across major cities. But what happens if the United States goes down or goes out, right? Oh, then Israel is dead meat, because there's nobody out there looking out for him, right? It's White House and Texas versus California, Oregon, and Illinois. It's almost war, right? And Chidanand Rajghatta, and writes it here, US on edge as Texas invades Illinois. So he's actually sent the National Guard of Texas to Illinois. That's just purely shameful. While this continues, Israel strikes Gaza as Trump says, real chance of peace? I don't think so. There can be no justice if Palestine is not freed, says Abbas at UNGA. He's right. India, Brazil, South Africa strongly condemn Israel attacks against Gaza. BRICS nations criticize protectionism, condemn Israeli strikes against Qatar. Modi lauds Trump leadership in Gaza, Hamas response on truce. Hamas supports Gaza deal, Trump wants strike halted, but no halt, right? No halt. Talks begin in Egypt on US plan to end Gaza war. Trump rebuked Bibi for being negative on call. This is a win, take it, says report. Then you have this, you have Israel, Hamas set for talks in Egypt over Trump's Gaza plan. Israel readies for rollout of Trump's Gaza plan phase 1, release of hostages. Hamas mum on some riders in peace plan. Hamas calls for swift hostage prisoner swap with Israel as key talks set to begin. Israeli bombing must stop for hostage release. I totally agree with it. And then you have this, the course ahead for Trump's Gaza power. He says the plan can be seen in two ways, as a statement of intention on how to end the Gaza war or an instrument of surrender. Well, it more looks like instrument of surrender. Israel's new doctrine of going on the attack by Naresh Kaushik. Israel's new defense doctrine will only make its citizens more insecure. It has made them. And that's true all across the world, folks.
मैं कह रहा हूँ ये बचत उत्सव है। कपड़े से जीएसटी घटा दिया, 12 से कर दिया 5%, और जिस धागे से बनता है कपड़ा उस पर 12 से कर दिया 18%। तो आप बताइए कि बचत उत्सव कितना बड़ा है।
रोड का इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर अमेरिका के बराबर होगा, ये हम करके दिखाएंगे, ये बात का विश्वास मैं आपको देता हूँ।
तो मुझे जरूरी नहीं कि मैं पहले से बता दूं कि मुझे वहां इंस्पेक्शन के लिए जाना है, तो फिर तो सब कुछ ठीक ठाक हो ही जाएगा। मैं ड्रोन भेज दूं, पता वही लेकर के आ जाता है और उनको पता तक नहीं चलता है कि मैंने जानकारी ले ली है।
प्लेन में बैठा लूं क्या, दुनिया घुमा लूं क्या, तेल हुआ महंगा तुझे छूट पे उड़ा लूं क्या, प्लेन में बिठा लूं, दुनिया घुमा लूं, तेल हुआ महंगा तुझे छूट पे उड़ा लूं क्या।
झूठ बोलो, झूठ बोलो, झूठ बोलो, बार बार बोलो, बार बार बोलो, बार बार बोलो। हमने रोड बनाने में स्पेस टेक्नोलॉजी का उपयोग किया है। स्पेस टेक्नोलॉजी से फोटोग्राफी होती है, मॉनिटरिंग होता है।
कि 2024 समाप्त होने के पहले हिंदुस्तान का रोड इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर अमेरिका के बराबर होगा। 8 साल में जितना रोड का काम हुआ, मैं दावे के साथ कह सकता हूँ कि पिछले 65-66 साल में जितना काम नहीं हुआ उतना 8 साल में हमने किया है।
Politics not corrupt your soul? Because I know it's a young man's question कि मतलब politics कैसे लोग बुरे होते हैं इस तरह से, but I generally think that some people are pure evil, and I'm sure you must have encountered
I met a lot of them. I met a lot of them, and I will say very clearly today that Modi is perhaps one of the most evil men I've ever met, and I didn't know him before that well. I knew him, a man who came to pick up my luggage from the airport, or arrange my speeches in Vidyarthi Parishad, and beg me for getting him to get in the good books of Obama when he was chief minister. So now he's a different man.
Have you ever been censored by the current government?
Nothing that I hide. I have no weaknesses that they can trace me on.
So you saw the videos about the walkout when Netanyahu was speaking. It's kind of shameful. 153 countries, I think, walked out. Only 15, 16 behind. India, one of them, right? We are not in the right corner, obviously, right? But these are the things that you got to see. I told you the numbers that were given to us in terms of the economy were fudged in the quarter to make a show of that we got that 6.4% growth. Actually wasn't true, and as the year goes along, drip, all the bad news will start coming in, and that's exactly what's happening. But PM does this. PM pushes self-reliance, hails India's Russia ties. But here's the thing. Can we achieve that self-reliance? Here's the thing. The only thing stopping India from becoming a research superpower. Yesterday I was reading about India's research achievements when a thought hit me like lightning. How do we call ourselves a knowledge superpower when we haven't won a single Nobel in science since 1930? The reality is brutal. Only 5 Indians have won Nobel in science-related fields since inception. In 1930, only Dr. C.V. Raman won a Nobel while working in India. That's it. One person in nearly a century. Meanwhile, we had absolute legends. Satyendra Nath Bose, his work became Einstein's theory. Meghanad Saha revolutionized astrophysics. Jagdish Chandra Bose proved radio waves exist. Homi Bhabha built our nuclear program. Did they get Nobels? No. China understood this 20 years ago. They invested heavily in science. Result, they are now a global research superpower. Solutions make research funding a national emergency. Pay scientists what they deserve. Stop treating PhD holders like cheap labor. And we are at that. But unfortunately, this runs headlong into this guru setup of the RSS and our old mythology. It doesn't work. You need free thinking and freedom of thought. If you don't have that, and if you're not telling the truth, you're creating lies, and especially WhatsApp University, you definitely are not going to get any of this. And the other thing is, the government is spending a whole bunch on infrastructure. You can see it all over Delhi. But still, bad roads, breaking bridges, nothing is safe, is because it is stark. The delays and the quality shows massive corruption. And the CAG is being absolutely gagged. There are no CAG reports unless they want to nail somebody within the BJP itself, right? And we have this. Wangchuk held under NSA, Leh sees third day of curfew, internal strife. But foreign portfolios, investors have net sold shares worth 27.3 billion in India, marking it the largest outflow in Asia. The reality. Industrial output growth slows to 4% in August. FPIs withdraw from Indian equities for third straight month. Maharashtra, Karnataka report most number of farmer suicides. Finally, in the Hindu, it's out. Grocery electronics good sales dip in September quarter despite GST boost. FPI stay net equity sellers in September but slow down. Factory activity slows to 4-month low in September. US wants to fix countries like India, Brazil in terms of trade ties, says Lutnick. But here is when it's coming home to roost. France seizes Russian oil tanker en route to India. Oh well, if France is in the game, Ukraine may hit deep into Russia-US envoy. It probably already has. India, EU must seal FTA deal by year-end to deepen bilateral ties, but will we? NATO chiefs Modi-Putin talks claim baseless, says MEN, but EFTA blocked to announce 100 billion investments. At UNGA week, India signals realignment with the global south. What does that mean? But this is what you need, and you've gone down on your knees for that one. Right? India, Canada to bolster security economic ties. Well, you need Canada in your corner just like you need the entire Commonwealth in your corner, folks. 3 cheers and Jai Hind.
बायोलॉजिकल शरीर से नहीं मिली है.
Folks, a quick readout by Jay Kumar, which says spot on. Vishwa Pappu, the white elephant of global politics. Narendra Modi's self-anointment as Vishwa Guru was always less prophecy than projection. A textbook case of what I call failing forward. Repeat the line of time, saturate the media with myth, and eventually even the absurd appears self-evident. Yet history has its own cruel wit. The Guru never arrived. What emerged instead is Vishwa Pappu, a provincial demagogue in monogrammed suits, mistaking infantile hugs for diplomacy, oil profiteering for strategy, and propaganda for permanence. And it's showing up, right? India has not ascended the moral pulpit of world affairs. It has been reduced to what Hans Morgenthau might have called a white elephant in international politics. Expensive, ornamental, and strategically irrelevant, and we can't even afford it. Hug diplomacy, a failure of symbolic capital. Pierre Bourdieu described diplomacy as the accumulation of symbolic capital, respect, credibility, gravitas. Modi, however, substitutes physical proximity for political legitimacy. His notorious lunges, Trump grimacing under a chokehold, Merkel recoiling, Macron tilting away are less hugs than hostage scenarios. They reveal a man confusing intimacy with authority, bodily invasion with respect. If Joseph Nye coined soft power to describe cultural attraction, Modi has pioneered its tragicomic inversion. Sweaty power, the belief that perspiration and persistence can substitute for persuasion. The result, global leaders endure him with frozen smile one reserves for an over-eager uncle at a wedding. Xi Jinping, fear in the language of friendship. Realist theory holds that states pursue security above all. Yet Modi is dealing with Xi reveal, not realism, but what scholars might call performative neutrality. Wow. At Wuhan, Modi staged a Jhula diplomacy tableau, a swinging like a child beside Xi. Weeks later, Chinese troops occupied Doklam. Months later, Galwan spilled blood. Modi's reaction was silence, bans on TikTok, and inflated maps of Ladakh. Go figure, right? This was not restraint but terror masquerading as prudence. Where Nehru articulated non-alignment, Modi offers non-confrontation, a euphemism for paralysis. The Vishwa Guru who promised civilizational leadership has become Vishwa Pappu, terrified of the dragon he pretends to, oh God, befriend. The Ukraine profiteering kleptocracy as foreign policy, constructivists argue that states signal identity through global norms. India once defined itself as the conscience of the global south, champion of anti-colonial justice. Modi's India defines itself through opportunism. In Ukraine, as Putin rained missiles, Delhi became Moscow's oil laundromat. Can you imagine that, right? Crude bought at $60 was refined at Jamnagar and resold to Europe at 90. Ambani's profit soared. Modi postured as neutral statesman. Indians still paid 100 rupees per liter at home. Ukrainians, meanwhile, died under Russian missiles, financed by Indian purchases. Washington called it the Modi war. In truth, it was Ambani's war. Kleptocracy dressed as statecraft, genocide subsidized by Indian consumers. Do you want to be that, right? I wonder.
There's a fire, a new day coming round. It's a feeling like a cool rain coming down. It's a rhythm of a new song singing. It's a rhythm of a new song singing. Oh my, times are changing. Oh my, times are changing. Oh my, I've been waiting.
चेहरे बदलते गए और कुछ नहीं बदला।